Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. In today's segment, I want to discuss the wisdom of letting go and letting people do what they want to do. If you've been in preparedness for a while, and frankly, this isn't even directly a preparedness video. This is just a mindset general video that I think will save a lot of us pain and suffering, especially if you tend to be like me in that we tend to be very over-responsible for people and feel over-responsible for people within our sphere. Now, I do want to give a caveat to this. As a believer in scripture, I'm a big believer, obviously, in taking care of our family and extending grace and mercy to people. But I think that there is an epidemic of consequencelessness that has led in our culture specifically towards people being able to make chronically poor decisions and having good, well-meaning people bail them out consistently. And I see this with prepping specifically. We see that all across the nation right now, that there are people who have gotten together with their families for Thanksgiving or whatever the holiday is of choice. And it seems to be that there are those of us who have been of a mindset towards preparedness and towards putting things back, whether it's food or being prepared with self-defense, whatever it is. And we have pleaded with people for years and years and years. And now it seems finally that some people are coming on board, and that's good. But have you ever noticed that really when it comes right down to it, we can plead all that we want to with people. We can be available for people. We can give our time and our energies and our emotions away. We can basically pour ourselves out into the lives of people who ultimately are not going to listen to what we have to say. They're still going to do what they want to do. And if we allow ourselves and our emotions to be sucked in like a giant vacuum by these people, we're going to chronically be spinning our wheels in our lives. And so the title of this video, the wisdom of letting go, people are going to do what they're going to do. Really, that allows us to take a step back when we just own that this is the way of life. When you cease feeling over-responsible for people, and when you cease trying to chronically reach out and help to your own detriment, like not doing the things in your own life that you know you need to do because you're so focused on helping other people and you're so focused on reaching out, it is a freeing thing. And a lot of this tendency towards over-responsibility and towards overreaching and trying to just put so much of yourself out there to people who are not reciprocating, and frankly to people who don't value your wisdom, your input, and your sound, evidence-based, historically literate ways of living and thinking. When we overextend ourselves, all we're doing is just drawing down our own reserves. And I see this now. I see this pan-systemically. I see this with politics. I see this with prepping. I see this with interpersonal things. Our culture, really ever since the 50s with Lyndon Baines Johnson, and the social welfare net that was set up, we have created a nexus of consequence-free living, which ultimately doesn't serve people and doesn't allow them to learn lessons. Pain, unfortunately, is a great teacher. And when we take away pain and consequence, we take away learning. And we also take away responsibility. Because when people eventually get burned by not making good decisions, or by blowing off things they know they should have done, or by blowing off people in their lives who have cared about them or have put energies into them or who have invested in them, eventually when there's consequence that's met with that, they learn, or they don't, and they keep perpetuating a cycle of tornadic misery in their lives. And it's a question for us as people who care, obviously. Like if you're watching this video, odds are that you're in the overwhelming majority of good people out there who care. And especially if you're the only prepper in your house, or you're the only person in your family who really is forward thinking, or you're one of the few people in your social sphere that is forward thinking, that does have a mindset towards beans, bullets, and band-aids, you tend to be asymmetrically the one who people expect to bail them out, or who people expect to always be there. If you're always the one giving and you're always the one being over-responsible, you, we, I, us, we are setting ourselves up to be taken advantage of. And that's not healthy for us. And so this has been a personal lesson that I've had to learn a lot over my life. And certainly over the past decade of my life, I've had to learn that people are going to do what they want to do. People will do what they want to do. You can't want a behavior for them. You can't want personal responsibility. You can't want reciprocity with people. If a person asks you, hey, what do you think about this? And you tell them honestly, hey, it may be a good idea to do X, Y, or Z. And they scratch their head, okay. And then go off their own little merry way and do whatever it is that is a poor decision. There's nothing that I'm going to do to change that and make it a better decision. And I think certainly as women, in particular, we have a giving spirit. Like, we have a part of us, most of us, I think the good ones, we want to give, we want to fix, we want to make it all better. We want to alleviate pain from the people in our lives. And that overall is a good thing. But when we don't allow people to learn from their mistakes, which does include pain from missed opportunities, messing things up, ignoring good and sound advice and wisdom, when we don't allow people to feel the pain of consequences because of their own poor decisions, we are not serving them, and we're not serving our families, and moreover, we're not serving ourselves, because it's a fundamental disrespect to ourselves to allow ourselves to continually be that, oh, let me bend your ear. I hear that you're into prepping, or I hear you're into this, or I hear you're into this. Let me ask your opinion. And then I'm going to go off and do my own little merry way and basically not do anything that's sound. And then when things go down, I'm going to come to you and expect you to bail me out of it. Have you ever heard that? Like, have you ever experienced this in your life? Leave me a comment below, because I am really, really sure that there are a lot of you who are probably in the same boat right now. I heard a saying one time that poor planning on your part does not necessitate an emergency on mine. And it's true. People who are good and wise and responsible tend to get taken advantage of because we have kind souls that tend to give. But consequences are kind too. Consequences are kind too. We don't tend to think of it that way, but ultimately, what is best going to serve someone? Learning the hard way once, maybe twice, hopefully not more than that, learning the hard way, or continually having somebody bail them out of poor decisions, and then these poor decisions set up for multi-generational problems later on. So when people do what they want to do, we kind of have to nod and take a step back and wash our hands of it in a way. I'm going to be merciful, but I'm not going to be an enabler. And that's a key differential. I'm merciful, gracious, but I'm not an enabler. I don't enable poor decisions. I don't enable ambivalence. I don't enable, and I don't make a practice of enabling apathy. If you want to make poor decisions in your life, you get a couple of rounds of that with me personally. But if you chronically make poor decisions, if you're dismissive and waste people's time and energy and effort, the consequence is that once you have drawn from this well and this well is dry, there ain't no drawing from it anymore. And so what really got my wheels turning on this was just observing how it seems that throughout this past year with the elections, that the political process has really amplified people's own underlying personal toxicities and their poor decision-making and their poor patterns and choices in living. There are people who I know of, I'm sure you know of people like this too, who for the past decade I have pleaded with to make sound decisions. I've pleaded with to do certain things, and now they're in a position where the decision that they know they should have made 10 years ago, they do not have options to make that decision because they were indecisive, because they were dismissive, ultimately because they were doing what they wanted to do, which was nothing. So nothing has consequences. Apathy has consequences. Dismissiveness of people has consequences. And we, as kind and loving people, are not being kind and loving if we enable chronically poor decision making. The wisdom of letting go. When people do what they want to do and they encounter consequences that are painful, there is a place in our life where we, as good and giving people, have to say, I have let go. You wanted to do what you wanted to do. You wanted to make decisions despite the fact that you had knowledge put right in front of you. You wanted to make poor decisions, so the consequences are yours to deal with. The wisdom of letting go. It is not an easy thing to do this, especially for giving people. I'm a nurse, and my tendency personally is to be one who rescues. I want to be a person who loves, and I want I spend my energies, historically, I have spent a lot of my energies trying to love and trying to create a bubble insulating people from harm. That's a loving thing. But what isn't loving is when that good tendency in us becomes an enabling force that shields people from consequences that would help them grow and learn. So sometimes we have to let go. And that is not an easy thing, but it is something ultimately that serves the person who feels the tender and painful sting of the consequence in their lives for poor decisions. Not necessarily one of my typical types of videos, the mindset video, but it's just something that I was feeling, and it was on my heart to share with y'all today. I hope it was helpful for y'all today. If you did enjoy the video, I hope you'll subscribe to me here on YouTube, Patriot Nurse. You can also support me on Patreon, Subscribestar, cryptocurrency, and PayPal. I have links down below. Also, if you don't want to feel the painful sting of consequence in your own life from lack of preparedness, take my class. I got a 4-hour class. You can find it at ThePatriotNurseAcademy.com. Preps you, medically speaking, for a whole list of contingencies. 4 hours, it's $129. You can download your workbook, you can work on it, you can stop, review, go back as you need to. So check out the full description there at the website, ThePatriotNurseAcademy.com. Have a wonderful weekend, y'all. May the Lord bless and keep you all. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.